Daniel Miller lived in a small apartment on the east side of Columbus, Ohio. Every morning, the same sound woke him up, the loud beeping of his cheap digital alarm clock. But this Monday morning felt different. Daniel didn't hit snooze. He didn't jump out of bed. He just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of cars passing outside. He sighed deeply. Life felt heavy. Daniel was 29 years old, working a standard 9-to-5 administrative job at a logistics company downtown. His life looked perfectly normal on the outside. He had a stable job, a simple apartment, and a routine that never changed. But inside, he felt empty. For months, Daniel had been feeling like life was passing him by. Every day looked like the day before. Wake up, commute, work, eat, scroll on his phone, sleep. It was like watching the same movie again and again. Except he was the main character, stuck in a loop. That morning he said out loud, "This can't be it. There has to be more." His voice sounded strange in the quiet room, almost like it came from someone else. That he got ready for work, took the same bus, sat in the same seat, and watched the same buildings pass by as the bus rolled toward downtown Columbus. But for the first time, Daniel paid attention. He watched people walking, laughing, rushing, living. Everyone looked like they were going somewhere, but he felt like he wasn't going anywhere at all. When he arrived at the office, he poured his usual black coffee and walked to the break room. Two co-workers were chatting near the counter. He didn't mean to listen, but one sentence hit him like a shock. "Real change starts with one small habit," one of them said. Daniel froze. Point one habit? Just one. On the bus ride home that evening, that sentence replayed in his mind again and again. When he reached his apartment door, he paused before entering. He looked around the parking lot, at the dim porch lights, at the sky slowly turning orange, and quietly, he said to himself, "Maybe I can start with just one thing." He didn't know it yet, but this simple thought was the beginning of a new life. Daniel woke up on Tuesday morning feeling exactly the same as the day before, tired, unmotivated, and unsure. But something was different. A tiny thought stayed in the back of his mind like a small spark. Just one habit. Start with one. He didn't know what habit to choose. He didn't know where to begin. But he knew he needed a change. After getting ready for work, Daniel walked to the bus stop. The air was cool, and a soft breeze moved through the trees. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't rushing. He simply stood there, noticing the world around him. As he got on the bus, he remembered something from a podcast he once listened to. The speaker said, "The easiest way to change your life is to improve just 1% every day." 1%, that didn't sound impossible. It sounded doable. While sitting on the bus, Daniel took out a small notebook from his bag. He had bought it months ago, planning to use it for something important, but he never did. He opened it to the first page. The paper was clean and empty. Almost without thinking, Daniel wrote, "Habit number 1. Wake up 10 minutes earlier." That was it. Just 10 minutes. Not an hour. Not a whole morning routine. Just 10 minutes. When he arrived at work, the day went as usual. Emails, data entries, phone calls, more emails. But every few hours, Daniel touched the notebook in his pocket, reminding himself of the decision he made. During lunch break, he sat alone at a small table near the window. He watched people walk down the street, students, workers, parents with strollers. Everyone seemed to have a direction. Daniel whispered to himself, "If I start small, maybe I'll find my direction too." That evening, instead of scrolling endlessly on his phone, Daniel set his alarm for 10 minutes earlier. Then he placed the notebook on his nightstand, close enough to see when he opened his eyes. That it was a tiny step, but it was a step forward. And for the first time in months, Daniel felt something quietly rising inside him, something he hadn't felt in a long time. The next morning, Daniel's alarm rang at 6:20 a.m. instead of 6:30. It was only 10 minutes earlier, but to Daniel, it felt like a huge challenge. He opened his eyes slowly. The room was still dark. His body wanted to stay in bed. For a moment, he almost reached to turn the alarm off and go back to sleep. But then he saw the small notebook on his nightstand. His own handwriting stared back at him. Habit number 1. Wake up 10 minutes earlier. Daniel took a deep breath and forced himself to sit up. His body felt heavy, but something inside him felt light, like he was doing something important, even if it was small. That he stood by the window and looked outside. The sky was still waking up too, painted with soft shades of gray and orange. Cars weren't honking yet. Birds were just beginning to sing. For the first time in years, Daniel experienced a quiet morning that no rushed, no panicked, no running out the door, just silence. And in that silence, he felt a tiny victory that he made coffee. Slowly and calmly, he took a longer shower. He even had time to sit on the couch for 2 minutes before leaving for the bus stop. It wasn't a dramatic transformation. His life didn't suddenly change in one morning. But Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Control that at work. He didn't tell anyone about his new habit that it was his secret win. But it changed the way he moved through the day, that he felt a little more focused, that a little less anxious, that a little more alive. During lunch break, he opened his notebook again. This time, he added a new sentence under habit #1. I did it. Day 1. He stared at those words for a long moment. He didn't expect it to feel so good. That night, he set his alarm again, just 10 minutes earlier, and for the first time in months, he went to bed with a small smile, because deep down, Daniel understood something powerful. By Thursday, Daniel had already woken up early 3 days in AROW. It wasn't easy. His body still wanted to stay in bed. His mind still whispered, sleep more. You need it. But every morning, he pushed himself just enough to sit up, stand up, and start his day. What surprised him most was how one small habit quietly began to change other things in his life. Without him even planning it, that a different morning energy on Thursday morning. After waking up early, Daniel made a real breakfast for the first time in years. Not fast food, not a granola bar, not just coffee. That he cooked 2 scrambled eggs, toasted a slice of bread, and even cut an apple. As he sat at the table, he thought to himself, I actually have time for this. It felt strange, but good. The extra 10 minutes gave him space, not just in his schedule, but in his mind. At a moment of clarity on the bus, Daniel didn't scroll on his phone like he usually did. Instead, he looked out the window and watched the city wake up. Small shops turning on their lights, people walking their dogs, students rushing to school. For the first time in years, he noticed life happening around him, that he wasn't lost in noise, that he wasn't drowning in distractions, that he felt present. That a new thought appears at work. During a quiet moment, Daniel found himself thinking, if waking up earlier helps me feel better, what other small habit could help? He opened his notebook. Below habit number 1, he wrote, possible habit number 2, read 5 pages every day. He didn't commit to it, yet he didn't want to overwhelm himself. But the thought was there. A seed planted. He smiled a little. An unexpected compliment later that afternoon. His coworker Emily walked by his desk and said, hey Daniel, you look more awake this week. New coffee brand or something? He laughed softly. No, just trying something different. She nodded. Well, whatever it is, it suits you. It was a small compliment, but it meant a lot. Someone noticed the change, even if they didn't know what changed. A calm evening when Daniel got home. He didn't collapse on the couch like usual. He made dinner slowly. He cleaned the kitchen. He even turned off the TV and sat quietly for a few minutes. And for the first time in a long time, he felt proud of himself, not for doing something big, not for achieving a huge goal, but for proving he could start something and keep going. That night before sleeping, he wrote in his notebook, Day 3. This small habit is changing more than I expected. He closed the notebook gently, placed it beside his bed, and turned off the light. Daniel didn't know it yet, but the ripple effect had only just begun. By the end of the first week, Daniel felt more in control of his life than he had in years. He woke up early every day. That he felt calmer, that he felt lighter, that he felt hopeful. But life, of course, doesn't let anyone change without testing them. And Daniel's first test arrived on Saturday morning. That a difficult start. Daniel had set his alarm early, just like every other day. But when it rang, he felt a wave of exhaustion hit him. His head hurt. His body felt heavy. His eyes didn't want to open. For the first time all week, he thought, maybe I should skip today. He turned off the alarm and buried his face in the pillow. But then he felt something unexpected, a sharp disappointment. Not in life, not in the world, but in himself. He whispered into the pillow, no, I can't lose to this. Slowly, painfully, he pushed himself up. His hair was messy. His eyes were half open. That he looked like someone who'd just lost a fight, but still stood up. And in many ways, that was exactly what he had done. The decision that matters. Daniel walked to the bathroom and splashed cold water on his face. He looked in the mirror. He didn't look strong. He didn't look confident. but he looked determined. And for the first time in his life, he understood something powerful: the habit you do when you don't feel like. It's the habit that transforms your life. That he made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and breathed slowly. It wasn't a perfect morning. It wasn't peaceful or beautiful, but it was honest. A conversation that hit deep later that day. Daniel met his friend Marcus at a small diner. Marcus noticed something immediately. "Dude, you look different. More awake or focused?" Daniel smiled. "Just trying to make small changes." Marcus nodded, then said something that stayed with Daniel. "Most people want big change, but they can't even keep one small promise to themselves." Daniel froze. That sentence cut deeper than anything he'd heard all week, because he knew it was true. A new promise that night. Daniel sat on his bed with his notebook. He flipped to the first page where he had written, "Habit number 1. Wake up 10 minutes earlier." Below it, he carefully wrote, "No matter what, even on hard days." He closed the notebook, placed it on his nightstand, and sighed that he didn't feel perfect, he didn't feel strong, but he felt committed, and that was enough. The turning point: as he turned off the lights and lay down, Daniel realized something important. This habit wasn't about waking up early anymore. It was about becoming the kind of person who keeps going even when it's hard. And that was the moment his life truly began to change. Sunday morning arrived quietly in Columbus, Ohio. Daniel woke up early. Again, still tired, still not perfect, but proud. 6 days of consistency, 6 days of small victories. As he made coffee, he realized something interesting. The habit of waking up early gave him time he never had before. Time to think, time to breathe, time to notice what his life was missing. And slowly, a new idea began to form. A new beginning. Daniel sat on his living room couch with the notebook in his hands. He opened it to the page where he had written, "Possible habit number 2. Read 5 pages every day." He looked at those words for a long moment. Reading had always been something he wanted to start again. When he was younger, he loved books, mystery, adventure, even self-help. But as he got older, life became busy, and that love disappeared. He didn't miss reading. He missed who he was when he read. So Daniel picked up a book he had bought months ago, a motivational book he never opened. He sat down and told himself, "Just 5 pages. That's it." And he began. The power of quiet learning. As he read, something surprising happened. He felt calm, focused, engaged. That he wasn't thinking about work, that he wasn't worrying about the future. He was simply there, inside the words on the page. The book talked about small daily improvements, consistency, and the power of habits. Exactly what Daniel was trying to build. Every few sentences felt like they were written directly for him. When he closed the book after reading 5 pages, he whispered, "I feel different. Not smarter, not wiser, just awake." A habit takes shape. Later that day, Daniel wrote in his notebook, "Habit number 2. Read 5 pages every day." Then under it, "Learning something small each day makes me feel alive." This new habit wasn't about finishing books quickly. It wasn't about becoming a genius. It was about showing up daily. Even when life was boring, busy, or difficult. It was about building a better version of himself, 1 page at a time. An evening realization. As Daniel prepared dinner, he realized something profound. If I can wake up early, if I can read every day, what else can I change? This thought didn't scare him. It filled him with energy. He didn't feel stuck anymore. He didn't feel lost. He didn't feel like life was passing him by. He felt like he was finally moving, slowly, steadily, but surely. The quiet transformation that night. Daniel went to bed earlier than usual, not because he was tired, but because he wanted to protect the habits he was building. He understood something important. Success isn't one big moment. Success is showing up for yourself every single day. As he closed his eyes, he felt grateful, not for the world, but for himself, for taking the first small step. Tomorrow would be a new day, and he was ready for it. Monday morning arrived again, the start of a new week. But unlike the week before, Daniel didn't dread it. He didn't feel empty or stuck. He felt something new growing inside him: momentum. His alarm rang at 6:20 a.m. Daniel opened his eyes without hesitation. No internal battle, no debate. He simply got up. It wasn't willpower. It wasn't motivation. It was consistency. Slow, steady, and powerful. A new morning routine. Daniel made his usual coffee. But this time, he added something new. He opened the same book from the day before and read his 5 pages while the sun started rising outside his window. The room was quiet, warm, and peaceful. For the first time in years, Daniel felt like his mornings belonged to him. Not to stress, not to work, not to chaos. That he whispered to himself. I like this version of me. The commute that felt different on the bus ride to work. Daniel didn't scroll through his phone like he always used to. Instead, he sat upright, noticing the world outside. Shops unlocking their doors, kids running to catch the school bus, a dog pulling its owner down the sidewalk. Everything looked normal, but Daniel felt different. He wasn't just passing through his life anymore, that he was paying attention. And that simple shift made the world look brighter. Unexpected productivity. When Daniel reached the office, something strange happened. He started working faster, not in a rushed way, but in a focused way. Emails that usually stressed him out didn't bother him. Tasks that felt heavy now felt manageable. He even finished a project early, something that rarely happened. His coworker Emily walked by and smiled. "You're on fire today," she said. Daniel laughed softly. "Just trying something new." What he didn't say was the truth. Small habits were changing his entire energy. A sense of responsibility. During lunch, Daniel ate quietly at his usual table. But this time, he wasn't lonely. He felt connected to himself. That he realized something important. When you build habits, you start trusting yourself. And when you trust yourself, life feels less scary. That he opened his notebook and wrote, "I am becoming the kind of person I always wanted to be." It wasn't arrogance. That it wasn't overconfidence. That it was honesty. The evening breakthrough. After work, Daniel walked home. Instead of taking the bus, it took 20 minutes longer. But he didn't mind. He put on soft music and let his thoughts breathe. With every step, he felt a gentle satisfaction. Not because he was perfect, but because he was improving. When he got home, he made a simple dinner, read 5 more pages, and cleaned his kitchen. None of these things were extraordinary, but together, they formed a life that felt meaningful. As he prepared for bed, Daniel thought, "Momentum is real. That if I keep going, I can change everything." He placed his notebook beside his bed, turned off the lights, and let himself smile in the darkness. He was no longer the same man who felt stuck a week ago. That he was evolving, slowly, quietly, and beautifully. By midweek, Daniel felt confident. His habits were solid. His mornings felt meaningful. His days felt lighter. But real growth never happens without setbacks. And on Wednesday evening, Daniel faced one. The unexpected phone call. Daniel had just finished dinner when his phone rang. It was his mother. Her voice sounded tired, heavier than usual. She told him that his uncle in Cleveland had been taken to the hospital. That it wasn't life-threatening yet, but it was serious enough to worry the family. Daniel felt the anxiety rise in his chest, the familiar feeling he used to experience before his new habits. He listened carefully, comforted his mother, and promised to visit on the weekend. But when he hung up, he felt drained, emotionally, mentally, physically. That old, heavy version of himself tried to come back. The temptation to stop. Daniel looked at his notebook on the table. His reading book was beside it. His alarm was already set for the next morning. He thought, "Maybe I should skip my habits tonight. It's been a stressful day. I deserve a break." The thought felt reasonable, comfortable, easy. But then, another thought appeared, soft, but powerful. This is exactly the kind of day habits are made for. He sat down, opened his book, and read his 5 pages. His mind wandered several times, but he kept pulling it back. That he finished slower than usual. But he finished. Then he wrote in his notebook, "Hard day, but I showed up." The morning after. The next morning, Daniel woke up to his alarm. His body didn't want to move. His mind was tired from the stress of the night before. But he got up anyway. He stood by the window and breathed deeply. Outside, Columbus was just beginning to wake up. Cars starting, birds chirping, the sky turning from gray to orange. And as he watched the world come alive, Daniel realized something. His habits weren't just helping him on good days. They were carrying him through the bad ones. A small but powerful victory at work that day. Daniel felt emotional fatigue, but he didn't collapse under it. His energy wasn't perfect, but his focus held. Emily noticed and asked, "You okay? You look a little tired today." Daniel nodded. "Just some family stuff. But I'm managing." She smiled gently. "Well, if anyone can handle it, it's you." Daniel wasn't used to people seeing him as strong, but hearing that gave him a spark of confidence. The real lesson that night, before bed, he made a final note in his notebook. Strength isn't being perfect. Strength is staying consistent when everything feels difficult. He closed the notebook with steady hands. Life had tested him, and for the first time, Daniel didn't break. He didn't fall back into his old patterns. He had built something inside himself, something quiet, steady, and powerful. Thursday morning in Columbus felt unusually crisp. The sun was rising over the city skyline, painting the streets in soft orange light. Daniel woke up with the familiar sound of his alarm, 6:20 a.m., and for the first time in months, he didn't hit snooze even once. That he stretched, yawned, and smiled quietly to himself. The power of reflection before making coffee. Daniel opened his notebook. He read the notes from the past week. Habit number 1. Wake up 10 minutes earlier, white heavy checkmark. Habit number 2. Read 5 pages every day, white heavy checkmark. Small victories written after stressful days, white heavy checkmark. He realized something remarkable. He had kept every single promise to himself, even on the hard days. Even when he wanted to give up, he had shown up, and that realization gave him energy. An energy that didn't come from caffeine, but from discipline and self-respect. Momentum and action at work. Daniel noticed changes in small but meaningful ways. He was more focused on tasks. That he solved problems faster. His coworkers respected his calm energy. Even Emily commented, "You're different lately. More confident. More intentional." Daniel didn't feel proud in a bragging way. He felt proud because he was proving to himself that consistency works. Each small habit was creating a ripple effect in his life. That a conversation that inspired him during lunch. Daniel sat with his notebook and wrote something new. What else can I improve? What habit could change the next part of my life? He thought about his health, his focus, and his long-term goals. That he decided on one more habit. Simple, small, but powerful. Habit number 3. Walk 20 minutes every day. That he didn't need to run a marathon or lift heavy weights. Just a daily walk. To clear his mind, move his body, and stay consistent. It was another small step. But Daniel knew, as he had learned before, small steps accumulate into big change. Evening reflection. That night, Daniel walked quietly through his neighborhood. The streetlights glowed softly. The air smelled faintly of autumn leaves. He breathed deeply and felt a new sense of balance. He realized that habits weren't about perfection. They weren't about changing overnight. They were about creating a life where small, positive actions happen every day. He opened his notebook one last time for the day and wrote, 3 small habits. 1 week. Life already feels different. I am building myself. As he placed the notebook on his nightstand, Daniel smiled. Not because he was finished, but because he had started. And that start was everything. It was Saturday morning. Daniel woke up with the soft light of dawn spilling into his apartment. The alarm had done its job. He didn't hit snooze. He didn't argue with himself. He simply got up. For 10 minutes, he stood by the window and breathed. The city below was stirring. Cars moved. People walked. The air smelled fresh and clean, and Daniel felt alive. The result of small wins over the past 10 days. He had built 3 small habits. Wake up 10 minutes earlier, white heavy checkmark. Read 5 pages every day, white heavy checkmark. Walk 20 minutes every day, white heavy checkmark. It didn't sound like much, but the effect was enormous. That he felt lighter, calmer, and more in control. That he noticed small changes everywhere. His thoughts were clearer. His energy was steadier. He handled stress with patience. Even his coworkers noticed the difference. The Daniel who had felt stuck, lost, and overwhelmed just a week ago no longer existed. In his place stood a man building his life, one small habit at a time. That a new perspective. That morning, Daniel opened his notebook. That he read the first page, the words that started it all. Habit number 1. Wake up 10 minutes earlier. Just start. He smiled. That one simple idea had rewritten his life. That he wrote a final note for the week. Big changes don't happen overnight. Small, consistent actions rewrite your life. That I am capable. I am disciplined. I am alive. It wasn't a dramatic transformation that no one else might notice the difference. But Daniel knew the truth. The real change always begins quietly, inside you. The habit that changed everything. Daniel made coffee, picked up his book, and walked outside for his daily 20-minute walk. The sun was bright. The air was crisp. The world was moving. and so was he. With every step, every page read, and every early morning, Daniel understood this powerful lesson. Success is not magic. Success is not sudden. Success is simple. Develop yourself constantly, one habit at a time. And with that, Daniel's life, once stuck on repeat, was finally moving forward, slowly, steadily, beautifully, and forever changed.